The Israelites would have been in the promised land by now had they not screwed up and been lacking so deeply in faith, despite all the wondrous, miraculous things that they witnessed, that they saw. They saw these miracles and still didn't believe in the Lord. This is something indicative of humanity. It was true back then, it is true today, that a person's beliefs are what they decide to believe in. And if they're not going to trust the Lord despite all the evidence of Him and the things that He does, well, there you go. That's the end of that. God respects people's ability to make terrible decisions. Free will and freedom of choice are the best things ever, but often a double-sided sword that can be very painful. Numbers 20:1. And the Israelites, the whole congregation, came into the wilderness of Zin in the first month. And the people dwelt in Kadesh. Miriam died and was buried there. A lot of people, when they do Bible studies, they draw maps. They draw these different locations and they plot the journey from the beginning to the end and all the points along the way. And there's definitely good reason to do that, and it really gives good insight into how all these things work and where are they and what is that place now and who is in possession of it and some of the history and some of the stuff there. But we're not really doing that in this study, but that is definitely something cool to do and is probably worth your time doing, but we're not doing that here. I don't know exactly where the wilderness of Zin is, but it certainly is a place that they were at. And we've seen Kadesh show up many times before as well, so maybe they're moving in more towards familiar land. Miriam has died, and she was buried in that location. Miriam is the prophetess. She is Moses' older sister, and she's been along through the Exodus and did some stuff in there. She's mentioned a few times, not to any great extent, but she was probably someone of quite a lot of renown within the camp of the Israelites. So this is something that would probably be very sad to them to lose her on this journey. The journey has been a long one, and people are getting older, and some people are expiring from their life contracts. Numbers 20:2. Now there was no water for the congregation, and they assembled together against Moses and Aaron. So now there's no water. This sounds similar to the beginning of their journey, back in the Exodus, when they were first leaving Egypt and they were into the wilderness, and there was no water at that point in time as well. And during that event, Moses went to the Lord, and the Lord provided him the opportunity for water. There was a great rock, and Moses smote the rock, and after smiting the rock, water poured out from it. Just for fun, it's Exodus 17:6, which reads as, "Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock at Horeb. There you shall strike the rock, and water will come out of it, so that the people may have something to drink." And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. This is an incredibly important chapter in the book of Exodus, because this rock that is smote, is symbolic of Jesus' sacrifice, Christ's sacrifice, when he is placed on the cross and killed. Like that striking is similar to the execution there. So it's very significant. And then we have the living waters coming out, giving life to the people in the same way that Christ, through his sacrifice, allows everyone to have the opportunity to build a relationship with the Lord, to be one of his. It's pretty cool. And here in this chapter, we're going to see something similar. Numbers 20:3. And the people contended with Moses and said, "Would that we had died when our brethren died in the plague before the Lord." 20:4. And why have you brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we should die here, we and our livestock? 20:5. And why have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us into this evil place? It is no place of grain, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, and there is no water to drink. The Israelites truly enjoy complaining, and they have been complaining this entire time from the Exodus onward about a myriad of different things. So this is back to the status quo here with the Israelites complaining. But what are they complaining about? They're complaining about the death of all the brethren from the plague during that rebellion. That probably put them on edge, seeing that level of power demonstrated during that rebellion. We see that they're complaining about this wilderness, not really having a home, not having a place to go to, and just wandering around, not knowing how long their lives are going to be or if they're going to even survive at all. And worries of their property, their livestock, what's going to be the fate that happens to them. And of course, they're very nostalgic about Egypt and all the great and lovely food that was down there. And now they don't have anything. They're out in the wilderness, hardly anything's growing there, and they're just barely surviving. So they're complaining. Numbers 20:6. Then Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tent of meeting, and fell on their faces. Then the glory of the Lord appeared to them. There's one thing that's pretty cool about Moses. Well, actually, there's a lot of things pretty cool about Moses, but he takes the complaints of the people and he brings them to the Lord. He filters them, condenses them, whatever it is. He's always trying to look after the Israelites. And of course, his priority is the Lord, but he's always trying to look after his brethren to make sure that they're doing okay. So here he is with his brother, prostrating before the Lord, looking for assistance in this matter to quell the people so that they can stop complaining, and maybe looking after them a little bit to improve the morale so that they're a little bit happier and not so down, especially after that event with all the people dying in that plague. That probably killed the morale in the tent. It probably felt like a death march at times. Numbers 20:7. And the Lord said to Moses, 20:8, take the rod and assemble the congregation, you and Aaron your brother, and tell the rock before their eyes to give forth its water, and you shall bring forth to them water out of the rock. So you shall give the congregation and their livestock to drink. So the event here is quite some time after the previous event involving the rock. But if we look at the details here of what the Lord has instructed Moses to do, it is very different than what he did previously, before he was to smote the rock and the water would pour out. But here he is simply to ask, and the water should pour out. So this is intended to be representative of Christ after the redemption, that after the single sacrifice is done and it is paid in full, that no further sacrifice is necessary, that one can simply ask and receive the living waters. We'll see if Moses is obedient here and follows the plan that God has laid out for him, or if he is similar to the people we have seen previously in rebellion. Numbers 20:9. So Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded him. So we see that Moses is getting his rod ready. Now there's some debate on which rod this is, whether or not this is the same rod that Moses had down in Egypt during the Exodus, that he performed those miracles with, turning into a serpent and whatnot, and he's had it with him the whole time, or if this is the rod that Aaron had that budded and had flowers growing on it and was later stored, or maybe was stored after that event inside the Ark of the Covenant, or some other rod altogether, that it doesn't really matter. I mean, if it was something that was repeatedly used in such a manner it could be made an idol, and that would be problematic as well. So something like that. Numbers 20 and 10. And Moses and Aaron assembled the congregation before the rock. And Moses said to them, Hear now, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock? 20:11. And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their livestock. So Moses was rebellious. He did not follow the orders of the Lord. He decided to do his own thing. Maybe he was angry with the Israelites. I think he was probably angry with the Israelites. But he wasn't following God's plan. And he was God's representative here on this planet to these people. So he's misrepresenting God by doing this. So this is a very big deal. Numbers 20:12. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Because you did not believe in, rely on, cling to me, to sanctify me in the eyes of the Israelites, you therefore shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. Rebellion is such an awful and nasty thing when it comes to the Lord, being disobedient to the Lord. We have seen the people of Israel trusting in the scouts who bring a bad report of the land that God said he would provide for them, and as a result them being locked out from the promised land and forced to wander the wilderness until they all die. And now Moses, in his own rebellion, misrepresenting the Lord, he is also to be punished, and he is no longer going to be able to enter the promised land, something that he has been working for however many years it is at this point in time. Aaron is also being punished as well, that he is not going to enter into the promised land. So all three siblings are going to have similar fates in that respect. Miriam, the sister, Aaron, the brother, and Moses. Numbers 20:13. These are the waters of Meribah, strife, where the Israelites contended with the Lord, and he showed himself holy among them. A very sad and tragic event here, an event that should have been glorious and showed just the power of God, that they could simply ask and receive. But because Moses messed this up, it is a very sad event. Numbers 20:14. And Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom, saying, Thus says your kinsman Israel, you know all the adversity and birth pangs that have come upon us as a nation. So Moses is trying to negotiate safe passage through another man's country on the route towards the promised land. So the name Edom comes from the name Esau. And as we recall previously, Esau was the brother of Jacob. Jacob and Esau. Jacob was renamed by the Lord to Israel. So the Israelites are the descendant of Jacob, and the Edomites in the land of Edom are descendants of Esau. So there is some family tie there. Granted, there's hundreds of years between, so I don't know how close of a direct relation that is, but it is the grounds that Moses is using to negotiate here. Numbers 20:15. How our fathers went down to Egypt. We dwelt there a long time, and the Egyptians dealt evilly with us and our fathers. 20:16. But when we cried to the Lord, he heard us and sent an angel and brought us forth out of Egypt. Now behold, we are in Kadesh, a city on your country's edge. So he's trying to explain their circumstances and the events that have transpired previously, and just how rough of a time the Israelites have had from being down in the land of Egypt and on their journey now, all the hardship that they have been through. He's looking for some pity, for some support, from those that are distant relatives. Numbers 20:17. Let us pass, I pray you, through your country. We will not pass through field or vineyard or drink of the water of the wells. We will go along the king's highway. We will not turn aside to the right hand or to the left until we have passed your borders. 20:18. But Edom said to him, You shall not go through, lest I come out against you with the sword. The Edomites didn't respond in the way that Moses would have liked. They rejected his proposal. They did not want him entering the land, even if it was a direct route and they weren't going to touch anything or take anything of the land. He didn't want them to enter the land. In fact, he would militarily oppose them from entering their land. Numbers 20:19. And the Israelites said to him, We will go by the highway, and if I and my livestock drink of your water, I will pay for it. Only let me pass through on foot, nothing else. 20:20. But Edom said, You shall not go through. And Edom came out against Israel with many people and a strong hand. So this negotiation, we see some back and forth here. Moses is trying to offer better terms, saying that they'll even pay for the water. They'll take the direct route. They're not going to interact with anyone on the way. They're just going to make a beeline towards the promised land. But Edom wasn't having that. They came back with their army to strike, to attack, to prevent this from occurring. Numbers 20:21. Thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his territory. So Israel turned away from him. This is an incredibly strong refusal we see here. This was something that was not meant to be. They need to continue on in their wilderness wanderings, for it is not quite time to enter into the promised land. There's still some other events that have to occur beforehand. Numbers 20:22. They journeyed from Kadesh, and the Israelites, even the whole congregation, came to Mount Hor. 20:23. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron at Mount Hor on the border of the land of Edom. So they've wandered around some more, and now they're receiving a message from the Lord. Let's see what this is about. Numbers 20:24. Aaron shall be gathered to his people, for he shall not enter the land which I have given to the Israelites, because you both rebelled against my instructions at the waters of Meribah. 20:25. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up to Mount Hor. 20:26. Strip Aaron of his vestments, and put them on Eleazar his son, and Aaron shall be gathered to his people, and shall die there. So Aaron is being punished for his transgression in the event that occurred with the smiting of the rock to bring forth the water. And because he's not entering into the promised land, he is not going to be the high priest in the promised land. So that role needs to change hands. So they are going to do that up in this mountain here. Numbers 20:27. And Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they went up Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. 20:28. And Moses stripped Aaron of his priestly garments, and put them on Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there on the mountaintop. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. Aaron is going on his final journey. He is climbing this mountain with his son and his brother. And then the holy vestments are placed upon his son, and he is no longer alive. I do kind of wonder how this played out, as the high priest is not allowed to be near a dead body, for it would make him unclean. So I wonder if the garments were placed upon his son, and then he was a distance off before Aaron passed on. But I don't know. Who knows what happened up there on that mountain? We just know the end result. And I guess that is what is truly important. Numbers 20:29. When all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they wept and mourned for him 30 days. All the house of Israel. Of course, the people of Israel, they didn't know what was happening. I don't think Moses would have let them know ahead of time what was going to be occurring there. I wonder if he even told his brother Aaron. So the people were really sad and they mourned for the loss of Aaron. It was probably quite shocking when it was only Moses and Eleazar coming down from the mountain.